Corruption will continue to be a key issue going into the elections. C4 Centre's Sudhagaran Stanley discusses 3 key reforms that voters should demand for in GE15 to rid the country of the systemic problem.
We need to see that politicians who are contesting these coming elections are really committed into, first of all, ensuring that there are separation of powers between the AG and the PP. We have seen this, how the AG and PP, in regards to the number of cases, their performance where political persecutions have been ongoing. There have been called even for, when Najib was being charged in court for his cases to be dropped, or for the AG to be replaced by their own person. So all of these kind of issues could only be addressed if there is a proper separation of powers within the institution. Whistleblowers in this country faces a lot of problems, in terms of wanting to come forward and blow the whistle. There's basically no protection for them to actually come forward and blow the whistle, right? And nothing actually entices them in doing so. They actually face persecution when they actually come forward and they blow the whistle. So there needs to be a proper reform, and that whistleblowers needs to be convinced that when I come forward and blow the whistle, I'm going to be protected under the law, and that there's no retributive action that's going to be taken against me. And number 3, which is the reforms towards the most important institution of the country, which is the MACC. We have seen over and overly how the MACC has been used as a political tool by the successive governments to actually go after political opponents. And the MACC themselves, although being an anti-corruption agency, they are merged with so much of corruption issues, abuse of power. The MACC chief himself in this recent share trading issue scandal and so on. So it is very important that the upcoming politicians will be committed to actually place MACC under Parliament and ensure that the appointment of the Chief Commissioner is made through a parliamentary process.
Now is the time to demand for greater reforms, says Sudhagaran. He urged voters to hold politicians accountable to past promises. At the same time, push for reforms to address the pressing issues facing the nation.
Many people do not understand these issues at the top. What reforms are people talking about? Separation of powers, reforms to MACC. Many people on the ground find it very hard to understand these sort of issues, and politicians actually use this to their advantage to exploit this issue. And that is our challenge, and this is where we come in to try to explain to the people that without moving forward these institutional changes and reforms to certain policies and laws, then bread and butter issues are going to be affected. There is going to be high cost of living because politicians are simply going to exploit the system. But what we are going through right now is a cleansing moment. And it is important for all of us not to give up at this moment, but to come out and to actually exercise our democratic right. We have managed to actually make and push for a lot of progress, in terms of certain areas that we're actually tracking and so on. We can see that there is some progress being made. And the reason why those progress are being made, because people are now, the voters today are demanding, they are coming out and actually asking for those reforms to be put on the table and see. So we are actually starting to discuss those reforms in this period. And so this is a time we actually must start to push for further heights and push for, for more greater reforms to happen. Not a time for us to retreat back, but to actually move forward and hold our politicians accountable.